marsh glowed like an open wound beneath Valoris's twin suns, each ray slicing through the crimson fog in trembling shards of light. The air tasted metallic, thick with spores that clung to skin like cold ash. And in the middle of that hostile stillness knelt a solitary human, hands pressed against the heaving chest of a creature no sane being would dare to approach. Kalen's breath came in controlled. Steady pulls, though his pulse thundered at the edge of his hearing. Before him lay a Varkon, one of the planet's most feared apex predators. Its obsidian feathers, usually sleek and razor-sharp, were matted with dark blood. Each labored exhale from the beast sent ripples through the marsh water, a warning to any creature with enough sense to flee. But Kalen didn't move. His gloved hands sifted through the shredded hide, the damaged tissue, the broken bone. "Easy," he murmured, his voice low and unthreatening. "I've got you." The Varkan's golden eye fixed on him, wide with pain, but not the hatred he expected. Instead, it watched him with a strange, it's almost desperate focus, as if recognizing something in him that went beyond species, from the shadows of the skeletal marsh trees. Unseen by Kalen, a Drexyl patrol crouched in silence. Their reptilian scales reflected the dying light, their slit pupils narrowing as they exchanged bewildered looks. "No human walks this close to death and lives," one whispered, yet look, another replied. "It allows him to touch it." Sarati, their commander, leaned forward, her talons digging into the mud. She had hunted Varkan for decades. Never had she seen one lie still for anything except death. But this one clung to life, because a human willed it too. As Kalen activated his dermal mesh, stitching biology and tech in seamless union, a low rumble escaped the beast's throat. It was not a threat, it was trust. From their vantage point, high among the twisted marsh trees, the Drexyl patrol watched the human with a mixture of fear and incredulity. The crimson mist curled around their scaled forms as they shifted uneasily, their eyes reflecting the dying light. No outsider, especially not a fragile, off-world human, should have been able to stand calmly beside a Varkan, much less touch one without becoming a smear in the wetlands. "He doesn't even carry a weapon," Reth muttered, his voice tight with disbelief. "Who approaches a Vark unarmed?" Sarati's crest flared a reflex born of irritation and confusion. "A fool," she growled. "Or something far more dangerous," the others murmured in agreement. Their society revered the Varkan as creatures of unstoppable instinct, holy predators forged by the planet itself. Only the bravest hunters sought them out, and even then, half never returned. The idea that a human, soft-skinned and fragile, would kneel beside one was almost insulting. But Kalen continued to move with unwavering focus, scanning the marsh with his device. The Varkan, despite the gaping wound across its flank, lifted its head to track his movements, its gaze lingering protectively. "It should have torn him apart," Reth whispered. "Why doesn't it?" Sarati narrowed her eyes. "He did something, subdued it somehow." "Do you think he used human magic?" one asked hesitantly. "There is no such thing as human magic," Sarati snapped, though uncertainty flickered in her voice. "Whatever he's doing, we must know." The decision settled on them like cold rain. This human was an anomaly, possibly a threat, possibly an opportunity. Either way, he could not be ignored. Sarati lifted her arm, signaling silently. "We take him alive," she ordered, as the Drexyl descended from the trees like shadows come to life. The marsh seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the clash. Between healer and hunters, Kalen didn't bother resisting when the Drexyl encircled him. Their weapons hummed with enough ion charge to drop a shuttle. Instead, he raised his hands slowly, palms outward, heart pounding not from fear, but from frustration. The Varkan behind him gave a weakened growl, attempting to rise, but collapsing again with a hiss of agony. "Do not move, human," Sarati commanded, stepping forward. Her scales rippled as she studied him with predatory intensity. "Why do you heal a creature that would shred you without hesitation?" Kalen exhaled, forcing calm into his voice. "Because it needed help," Sarati scoffed. "Everything on Valaris needs help. Most of it wants to eat you afterward. Answer the question." He glanced back at the wounded Varkan, then at the Drexyl soldiers poised to strike. Look at its wounds. Those aren't from a fight. They're from a trap, industrial grade, cruelly set. Something caught it. It came to me because it couldn't continue alone. Reth stepped closer, nostrils flaring. You expect us to believe the apex terror of this world sought your assistance? I don't care what you believe, Kalen replied quietly. But I know what I saw, as if summoned by his words. A faint, keening sound drifted through the marsh. High-pitched, pained, it echoed once. Then again, from beyond the reeds, the Drexyl froze. Kalen's expression softened. There, that's what it was looking for. Another cry followed, smaller, weaker. Reth's eyes widened. That sounded like a juvenile. Sarati's grip tightened on her weapon. Impossible. No one has ever found a Varkan hatchling and lived. Kalan pointed toward the shifting reeds. You didn't find one, but your traps did. Silence gripped the marsh as a trembling, tiny silhouette emerged, scaled. Feathered cub limping in fear. The Varkan behind Kalen released a raw, broken cry, and in that moment, the Drexyl realized the truth. He wasn't healing a monster. He was helping a parent. The cub stumbled through the reeds, its tiny talons dragging in the mud as it limped toward the injured Varkan. Its soft, trilling calls trembled with fear, and each sound seemed to carve new anguish into the parent's rasping breaths. The towering predator struggled upright, swaying, every muscle trembling, but its eyes locked on its young with a fierce, desperate love none of the Drexyl had ever believed such creatures capable of. Kalen moved slowly, placing himself between the Drexyl and the cub, hands raised not in surrender this time, but in quiet reassurance. Easy, he murmured to both parent and child. You're safe now. Sarati watched, stunned. The Varkan parent did not snap at him, did not crush him in a reflex of pain or instinct. Instead, it lowered its massive head so the cub could press gently against its neck. The scene was almost tender in image that shattered centuries of Drexyl belief. This is not possible, Reth whispered, his voice trembling. Varkan do not show affection. Maybe they never got the chance, Kalen replied softly, already kneeling to scan the cub's twisted leg. The tiny creature whimpered, but didn't pull away. Its parent rumbled in distress, but allowed Kalen to work. Curling its enormous body around them both as if shielding them from harm, Sarati lowered her weapon, awe replacing suspicion. Human, you risked your life for them. Even after knowing what they are? Kalen smiled faintly. They're alive. That's enough reason. Minutes later, with the cub's legs stabilized and wrapped, the Varkan parent released a deep, resonant kala sound that vibrated through the marsh like a heartbeat of gratitude. The Drexyl stood silently, witnessing an impossible alliance form before them. For the first time in Velarus's harsh history, predator, prey, and outsider stood together in fragile peace. And all because compassion, offered freely, had reshaped the wild.